Okay, I'm going to try a new format for the SDC address here. I'm going to try doing it in segments that are less than 10 minutes long, because that seems to be more conducive to YouTube and the way people watch videos and everything. And so, yeah. It's been a long time since I've had an address. I've been basically taking a break from the whole thing and just letting my head clear a little bit. I've had a lot of like trauma and conflict or something, whatever you call it, from the Urantia book, and it has spilled over into other things and made me rethink all of this stuff over and over again, and I guess it's been good. So the overall theme of what I've gleaned from this, or what I've arrived at, is that it's best probably to take all these things with a grain of salt. Not to get too hung up on, is this source telling the truth, or is that source telling the truth? And then once we make that decision, then it's like we believe everything they say without question. I guess that's an old habit from my religious past. Is to just find a cow that you think is the truth, and you just milk that cow and continuously. Or use your favorite analogy. So, yeah. The Urantia book was apparently tampered with from its inception. And I got into that once I got into the website of the alternative Urantia organization. I think it's called the Urantia Book Fellowship or Foundation or something, as opposed to just the Urantia Foundation. And they have a lot of stuff on their page about the history of it, and about input and notes from a lot of different people in the organization, and what they saw and experienced and stuff. And I think that's why there is a good book on the sources of the Urantia book. And I want to get that and read it. And when I do, I'll probably be able to make a more informed statement about that. But just from the snippets of things I read, it seems to be quite apparent that Dr. Sadler, who was kind of the ringleader of this whole thing, he wasn't the channel apparently, but he was the kind of the organizer, and he pulled the strings. It seems that he had some strong preconceived notions, such as psychic phenomena are BS, reincarnation is BS, and from what I've gleaned, maybe some more pet peeves, such as Atlantis was BS, and who knows what else. And it seems that what he did is he would get these papers from this psychic. Apparently the psychic did the automatic writing thing when generating the material for the book, since it was more efficient or whatever. I don't know, whatever the reason. But so I believe he actually would get real papers from this channel that were handwritten. But then, depending on the content of those papers, and first of all, they were all typed up by Sadler's secretary. And then, depending on the content, apparently he would just either have her leave stuff out. He might have gone through and just crossed things out of the paper or hand-edited things, I'm not sure. Or this may have been done even later after they were typed up by the secretary. I don't really know. I do know that he would burn they would claim that he would stick the copy of the paper back in a safe and it would magically disappear and new ones would be in its place. But I believe what was going on is they were just burning the originals. He was burning the originals to hide his tracks. So anyway, in a nutshell, there was obviously a lot of deception going on and manipulation, and I feel quite strongly that we should not just throw out the whole thing and say, oh, well, therefore it's been tampered with, it's all BS. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there, and it's important and more detailed and valuable, as valuable or even maybe more valuable than a lot of the stuff in these other sources, because of the degree of detail and things that it gives. So I think number one, the Urantia book is very valuable and helpful. Number two, you can't just blindly trust anything it says because you don't know what's been altered, taken out, or even added, God forbid, by not so benevolent people along the way. So I don't know if we'll ever have a real copy of the Urantia book or a complete copy or whatever, if there ever was such a thing, even in handwritten form. So that's that. That kind of bursts my Urantia bubble, but it's also a great relief because it really appears that there probably was detailed information that did corroborate with a lot of these other sources on subjects such as past lives, and the history of the world that it seems to disagree with them on, and just about any other topic that where there's just a major gap, so to speak, in the Urantia book's coverage. I believe the quick and dirty explanation is, yeah, those things were edited out by this guy that had his preconceived ideas. Now, why would the entities that chose to channel the work allow it to be affiliated with someone so vicious so early on, or did they have control over that? I know those are good questions, and or was the whole thing just made up? Again, if it was just completely fiction and made up, it was fantastic. It's just an unbelievable job, and you'd have to say, yeah, the cosmology of the universe would have to be something like that, even if it's not exactly that, and it's kind of inspiring nonetheless. But anyway, so that's that, and I've had people direct me to some other possible channels, and it seems like I may have a more detailed address on those in a little bit, but it just seems like those are along the lines of the Betty Book type of channel, where you have an entity that's still conscious while channeling, and so therefore you have issues with the purity of the information and how much is just the person's preconceptions and stuff. And boy, that even brings us to Douglas Cottrell. I've had some people point out that, oh, Douglas Cottrell wasn't as good, and he's just... I have comments ranging from, oh, he's completely a farce, to he's just not quite on par with the other sources. And I think it's pretty obvious that he doesn't have the depth and quality and scope and accuracy that Casey and Solomon and maybe Peterson did. What does that mean? It could very well mean that we're just tapping into his subconscious, or the subconscious minds that he touches upon when he says he's connecting with other minds, or touching other minds, or consulting other minds. So, that's that. It's still quite valuable, but, take things with a grain of salt. Just because somebody's going into a trance and doing some kind of deep trance meditation doesn't mean it's all the same. It doesn't mean that they're all reaching the Akashic record, so to speak, if indeed there is such a thing. It doesn't mean that they're a source of some infallible connection with some channel that's giving you the 100% truth. So, I guess the take-home message would be, take everything with a grain of salt. And it really is, I think, important to compare these guys and see where they're saying the same thing, where they're not. Because there are a lot of topics where they do seem to be saying the same thing, and some topics where, maybe not. So I think maybe I'll kind of shift my focus to doing more of that from that angle. And of course, as we find more channels that seem to be that, or of any quality that's relevant and helpful, then we'll try to bring them out and discuss them. So yeah, that's our 10-minute snippet this time, and I'll try to keep doing these in 10-minute chunks to keep things more easily accessible. So share and enjoy.